I want to mention one other quick thing. They can't find witness number 3 still. This is apparently an ex-girlfriend of Diddy's who was one of the alleged victims. And prosecution can't find her.
Right, her.
Today in a New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs told the judge he was, quote, a little nervous. The rap mogul's criminal trial began this morning. He is trafficking, racketeering.
The courtroom drama surrounding Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial was already grabbing headlines, but the bombshell revelation that a key witness dubbed Victim 3 in the indictment has gone missing has thrown the entire case into chaotic uncertainty. What was shaping up to be one of the most high-profile celebrity trials in recent memory now has an added layer of intrigue, suspicion, and potential foul play for federal prosecutors. This isn't just an unexpected twist, it's a catastrophe.
Defense wanted to propose a question on, after the potential jurors filled out their questionnaire, have they seen any news media, any documentaries, anything just relating to a news medium, and whether or not they saw it in between them filling out the questionnaire to Monday morning when they saw, or when they go to...
Victim 3 was more than just a name buried in court documents or testimony, was expected to shine a glaring spotlight on the allegations against Diddy. The prosecution had built her role in the trial as pivotal, a linchpin in their argument that Diddy's actions were not isolated incidents, but part of a long-term calculated pattern. She was allegedly prepared to recount deeply personal and harrowing experiences that would expose the full weight of the charges, including claims of coercion and exploitation. In other words, she was set to deliver testimony that could cement the prosecution's narrative and leave the defense with little room to maneuver, but now she's nowhere to be found.
Is trying to find her, and her attorney has said that she may not be willing to come and testify anyway. So,
let's be clear, this isn't just a case of someone skipping town to avoid the public eye. According to prosecutors, they face radio silence, not just from her, but from her legal representative as well. Her lawyer, reportedly dealing with undisclosed personal issues, has been unreachable, leaving prosecutors scrambling this kind of double disappearance to witness. And her advocate is not only rare, but also raises red flags that are impossible to ignore. Is this a case of fear manipulation or something far darker? The timing is too convenient to dismiss as coincidence. What makes the situation even more alarming is the context surrounding Victim 3. According to insiders, she had previously expressed a willingness to testify, even going so far as to say she'd use her real name rather than hide behind a pseudonym. That kind of courage isn't common in cases like this, especially when facing off against someone with Diddy's wealth, influence, and connections. And yet, just as jury selection kicks off and the trial begins to gather momentum, she vanishes, gone, no calls, no messages, no trace. For a prosecution team that counted on her testimony to deliver a devastating blow, this isn't just a setback, it's a disaster.
Because we now know who all the prosecutors will be on Diddy's trial. They're all women. They have assembled a team of female prosecutors, and that is definitely not by accident.
Theories about her disappearance are swirling like wildfire. Some speculate she simply got cold feet, overwhelmed by the prospect of facing the media frenzy and the legal juggernaut representing Diddy. Others aren't so sure. High-profile cases like this one are no strangers to whispers of intimidation, whether subtle or overt. Witness tampering doesn't just happen to movies. And the stakes here couldn't be higher if someone wanted to silence her, whether through threats, pressure, or something more sinister. They had every incentive to act now before her words could hit the courtroom and the public record. And then there are the conspiracy theories, the kind that thrive in the shadowy corners of cases like these. Some suggest she may have been paid off, coaxed into disappearing with promises of a fresh start far from the chaos. Others propose darker, more alarming scenarios that involve coercion or outright harm. The fact that even her lawyer is unreachable only deepens a mystery. Is it possible that both have been pressured into silence? And if so, by whom? The defense, of course, denies any involvement, has been quick to frame the situation as a failure on the part of prosecution to secure their witness. But for the public, the question lingers: how far would someone go to keep this woman from speaking?
In her civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and at the hands of Diddy.
The prosecution is in a bind, to say the least. Without victim 3, they lose a crucial voice that could have painted a vivid, damning picture. Diddy's alleged behavior, her testimony, wasn't just about her own experiences. It was meant to tie the broader narrative together, linking her story to those of other accusers, and solidifying the argument that Diddy's actions were part of a systemic pattern. Now, they're left with a gaping hole in their case. Sure, they still have other witnesses, including Cassie Ventura, whose testimony is already expected to be explosive, but losing victim 3 weakens their hand and gives the defense more room to argue that the accusations are inconsistent or exaggerated. And speaking of the defense, they've wasted no time capitalizing on this development. Diddy's legal team has been relentless in their efforts to discredit the prosecution, and the missing witness is a gift they didn't even have to fight for. They've already hinted that her disappearance raises questions about the credibility of the case as a whole. Their argument that the prosecution can't even keep track of their key witnesses. How reliable can their broader claims be? A shrewd move, one that could plant seeds of doubt in the minds of jurors before the trial even properly begins. But let's not forget the elephant in the room: the sheer power and influence Diddy commands. This isn't just any celebrity trial, it's a battle involving a man who has spent decades building an empire that spans music, fashion, and business. His reach is vast, his resources limitless, and his connections deep. For years, he has been a figure who could make or break careers with a single decision. That kind of clout doesn't just vanish when you step into a courtroom. It lingers, casting a long shadow over everyone involved in a case. And when a witness disappears under these circumstances, it's hard not to wonder whether that shadow played a role.
Investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
What's particularly chilling is the broader implication of this disappearance. If victim 3 was indeed silenced, whether through fear, coercion, or something else, it sends a message to other witnesses, both in this trial and beyond. It says, speak up and this could happen to you. That kind of intimidation doesn't just affect the people directly involved. It echoes outward, creating a culture of silence that makes it even harder for others to come forward. And in a case like this, where the allegations are as explosive as they are, silence can be just as damning as any verdict. As the trial continues, the absence of victim 3 looms. Larger story, once poised to be a cornerstone of the prosecution's case, now exists only as an unanswered question. What was she going to say? What details was she have shared? And most importantly, what or who is keeping her from saying it? These are questions the prosecution will have to grapple with as they move forward, trying to salvage a case that has already been rocked by scandal and speculate.
Judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male workers across state lines to take part in recorded performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence.
But even as the prosecution scrambles to adjust, the trial marches on. Jury selection is underway. Opening statements are on the horizon. And the spotlight on Diddy has never burned brighter. The stakes couldn't be higher, not just for the accused, but for everyone involved. And with each passing day, the tension continues to build, the unanswered questions piling up like a storm on the horizon. And just like that, the courtroom drama surrounding Sean Diddy Combs went from a spectacle to a full-blown circus, with the disappearance of key witness casting a long dark shadow over proceedings. The trial roared forward, dragging everyone into its relentless undertow. But if the prosecution thought the missing testimony was their only hurdle, they were in for a rude awakening. This case was about to unravel in ways no one could have anticipated, with every new revelation more jaw-dropping than the last.
Latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment, as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we...
First, let's talk about the charges, because frankly, they're unlike anything the entertainment world has seen in decades. Diddy isn't just fighting for his reputation. He's fighting for his freedom, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Racketeering, coercion, conspiracy allegations that paint a picture of someone who didn't just flirt with a line between power and abuse, but bulldozed right past the prosecution is arguing that for years, decades, even Diddy operated in the shadows of his own empire, creating a culture where control and exploitation weren't just tolerated, they were the foundation. And at the center of all, allegations of systematic manipulation, where promises of fame and fortune mask something much darker. The courtroom itself has become a battleground for contrasting narratives. On one side, You have the government laying out a case that feels ripped straight from a thriller, complete with accusations of coercion, secret recordings, and a web of enablers allegedly complicit. In creating a toxic environment on the other, Diddy's defense team is playing a dangerous game of denial and deflection, painting the accusations as a twisted misinterpretation of consensual relationships and extravagant lifestyles. They're banking on the jury buying into the idea that this case isn't about justice, but about ambition, the ambition of accusers looking for a payday, the ambition of prosecutors looking for a high-profile win.
I suppose it could be coincidence. I don't think it's coincidence. And especially given the nature of the case.
Yes.
Because when you look at who is examining these various witnesses, especially female alleged victims, of which there will be.
And then there's a testimony, or what's left of it, with one major witness missing the spotlight, has shifted to those brave enough to take the stand. Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former partner, is a name on everyone's lips of decision to testify under her real name, rather than a pseudonym sent shockwaves through proceedings. She's not just another witness. She's a prosecution star player in the face of the allegations her testimony is. Expected to be a bombshell laying bare years of alleged mistreatment and exploitation. But here's the kicker: the defense is already circling, ready to pick apart her story piece by piece. They've hinted at inconsistencies in her past statements, and they're not shy about questioning her motives. It's brutal, it's ugly, and it's the kind of high-stakes legal drama that keeps courtrooms packed and headlines rolling. But Cassie isn't the only one stepping forward. The prosecution has lined up a parade of witnesses, each with their own stories to tell their own. Scars reveal some are former employees who claim to have seen things they wish they could forget. Others are individuals who say they were pulled into a world they couldn't escape. And then there's the mountain of physical evidence, recordings, images, and items seized during federal raids that prosecutors argue paint an undeniable picture of wrongdoing. Yet the defense has already started to chip away, arguing that the evidence is contextual, and that without first-hand accounts to tie it all together, it's nothing more than a collection of out-of-context moments.
The plea offer that came up in the last hearing, where the government said we did offer him a deal or an offer, I should say, and that he rejected it. And now it's official, and he said it to the court as well too. He stood up, said that he consulted with this about his attorneys, and it seems like they're planning, or not even seems like they are, they're rolling the dice.
And that's where the missing witness looms over everything. Without her, the prosecution's narrative feels incomplete, their case slightly unsteady every time they bring up her name. It serves as a reminder, the gap in their story, a gap the defense is exploiting at every turn. They've called her absence a blessing in disguise, arguing that her testimony would have been unreliable, at best a calculated move, one that cast doubt and not just on Herb on the entire case. Meanwhile, the media frenzy outside the courtroom has reached a fever pitch. Every day brings new leaks, new rumors, new whispers of what's to come. Some outlets are speculating about additional charges, while others are focusing on the ripple effects in the music industry. Diddy's empire, once seen as untouchable, is now under siege. Brands are distancing themselves, collaborators are going silent, and fans are left wondering how much of the legacy they once idolized was built on a foundation of lies. And yet there's a vocal contingent still standing by him, arguing that this is all a coordinated effort to bring down a man who dared to succeed in a world that wasn't built for him.
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the shoot have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there.
But the cracks are showing even among his most loyal supporters. Behind closed doors, whispers of doubt are circulating even from those who once benefited directly from Diddy's rise to power. Former colleagues and collaborators are reportedly reconsidering their allegiances, with some quietly distancing themselves from the once untouchable mogul. The industry, as ruthless as it is opportunistic, has a way of turning its back on its fallen stars, and while no one's stepping forward publicly just yet, you can bet that the silence speaks volumes. How many of them knew? How many ignored the warning signs? Because it was easy to stay in the spotlight, soaking up the benefits of his empire. The questions are piling up, and they're not going away. And then there's a matter of those infamous recordings. While the defense has downplayed their significance, insiders say the prosecution is preparing to unleash a treasure trove of damning evidence. We're talking hours of footage, cryptic text messages, and audio Recordings that allegedly capture moments that will make even the most hardcore skeptics squirm. The recordings, if admitted into evidence, could change everything. It's one thing to hear allegations and testimony. It's another to see or hear them unfold in real time. The defense is already scrambling to block their inclusion, arguing that they're irrelevant or prejudicial. But if they make it to the courtroom, they could be the tipping point that shatters any remaining illusions of innocence.
It's a question of that, but when you read through the indictment, it's pretty clear who could be indicted as a co-conspirator. Right now, there are people in the indictment who would be considered unnamed co-conspirators, but clearly have played a role in this conspiracy. And I think prosecutors have some big leverage on them because they're hoping that they testify against Diddy as prosecution witness.
Inside the courtroom, the tension is palpable. Every word, every piece of evidence, every side eye glance from a juror feels like a potential turning point. The defense has been relentless in their cross-examinations, pushing witnesses to the brink, trying to poke holes in the prosecution's case. But the government isn't backing down. They've doubled down on their narrative, presenting a timeline of events that they argue shows a clear, calculated pattern of behavior. It's a battle of wills, and neither side seems willing to blink. And then there's a question of motive. The defense has been hammering the idea that the accusations are nothing more than an elaborate cash grab, pointing to settlements and lawsuits as evidence that money, not justice, is a real goal. But the prosecution has countered with chilling argument that no amount of money can undo the damage caused by years of alleged mistreatment. It's a clash of ideologies, one that's playing out in real time for the world to see.
But there's also strategic reasons for the prosecutors to want him to have co-defendant, because right now he hasn't waived his right to a speedy trial, which would force prosecutors to take up the trial pretty quick, which they actually might not be ready to do. But if they supersede him and have co-defendants with him, it makes it a lot easier to pursue a trial continuance without him waiving his speedy trial right.
As the trial barrels forward, it's becoming increasingly clear that this isn't just about Diddy, it's about power, privilege, and the systems that allow people to operate unchecked for years. It's about the entertainment industry's dirty little secrets, and the lengths people will go to protect them. And most importantly, it's about the individuals at the heart of this case, the ones who come forward, the ones who haven't, and the ones who may never get the chance to. So what happens next? Will the prosecution's case hold up under the weight of scrutiny, or will the defense's strategy of doubt and distraction tip the scales? Will more witnesses come forward, or will the chilling effect of the missing testimony keep others silent? And perhaps most importantly, what does this trial mean for an industry that has spent decades sweeping its darkest corners under the rug?
The judge said that, he seemed to be taking this kind of matter seriously. Now, I will just kind of represent and say it. I haven't seen the documentary, but it's not out of the realm, or it's not out of the norm that she even went on this documentary as well, too, because she had previously gone on another documentary and kind of talked about her client's accusations against Diddy as well, too. So I was surprised that they brought up this particular documentary. Again, I don't know the extent of what she had said, but the defense seemed very annoyed in a way.
This story isn't just a legal battle. It's a culture war reckoning, and a test of how far we're willing to go to hold people accountable. And if you think you've heard all, trust us, the most explosive revelations are still come. Let us know what you think down below. Are you buying a defense's spin? Or do you think the prosecution's got this in the bag? Stay tuned, because this one's far from over. We'll see you in the next one.